So this video is a little different. It's not a gameplay video per se. Um, I'm gonna be going over the engine roster of my fictional railroad, and you can see all of them right here. And just an FYI, I am sick. I have a cough and the sniffles. So if there's like a jump cut and it cuts what I'm saying, it's probably because I just had a coughing fit, and the sniffles are self-explanatory. I have a head cold. But I'm gonna be going over each of the locomotives. There's about 32, 33, I'm not sure, plus 5 to the right. Those are that's foreign power. That's stuff I made for fun. But we're gonna be hopping into it right now. The first locomotive is this engine right here. This is the first one I've done for this roster, and we can pick it up, move it over here to get a better look at it. But this is just a regular SD40-2. I'd have to check who made the models. I might go check before I do the rest of the roster, because these are custom models. They have nice realistic fans, which I have a pet peeve about realism. They have very good details on them for this game especially. A lot of engines in this game don't have a lot of details with the model, and I appreciate the people who make these because they're very nice. And I'll explain some of the features that are universal for each locomotive. Most of them have this orange and black and white paint scheme. There's stickers on them. These stickers, they're on a lot of models. I just kept them because they're interesting, they're neat. The fuel cutoff sticker. These, I took them from a paint job, but I don't remember which one. But these, they line the doors, you can see them. And the shadow's really funky here. But yeah, danger running machinery. This engine, live electrical cabinet. I don't know where the actual electrical cabinets on an SD40 are, but I imagine they're somewhere like here. This sticker I made myself, you can see, because it's not that great. This locomotive is remote distributed power equipped, which basically means I can, all of the locomotives have that sticker. I can take this engine and I can slap it on the back of a train and have it run normally. And these are Santa Fe locomotives technically, so they have, the Santa Fe PTC signals. I don't think that's what they are, but that's just what I call them. And plus the beacon. And this locomotive's, excuse me, it's very loud. But it's got, I'm gonna turn that down actually. But this engine, it has an actual, I don't know which light it is, but there it is. It has an actual beacon on it. Very nice. I like that. The lights, they're not really special. Yeah, forward-facing headlights, they're very nice looking when they come on. And rear headlights, it doesn't seem to have rear headlights. As for the paint job, let me shut this down real quick. As for the paint job, I made this logo. There was some website I bookmarked that I used, but the logo was custom made. The railroad runs, you probably, if you're observant, you picked up that this railroad is centered in Montana. So this is the Montana Basin route. The actual name of the railroad, obviously, again, is Bigfork and Flathead. But yeah. Oh, yeah, this sticker here. I can't read that. The text is too small. But I like how it looks. It gives a nice little flare of detail to the locomotives. But, yeah. That's the first locomotive of the roster. And the SD40s were really a trial and error thing. They were very fun to make because of that, and I enjoyed working on them. So that's 2201, and you have the rest here. 2201, I never mentioned it. I should probably mention for each of the locomotives, is an ex-Santa Fe locomotive. You can tell by the stereotypical RS3L, I believe it is, the Santa Fe sounding horn. I've seen videos of a bunch of different Santa Fe like ST40s from like long ago, like 1980s or something, and they have that horn. I like the sound file. It's very realistic sounding. This is the next locomotive on a roster. I'm not doing it in number order because obviously this is 2206. For brevity's sake, I'm not going to do it in number order. It's mostly the same. It's a renumbered, weathered locomotive. It's obviously you have the nose bell. It's X, CN, and W, and you can tell because I went out of my way to find a horn that was from CN and W that was suitable, because I know they like to change their horns up a little bit, and give it a little listen. I believe that horn, again, it came from a different set of models, but I'm not sure which. It was a set of CN and W SD40s that also use this model, but it's a very nice sounding horn, very fitting for the locomotive. And one thing I've neglected to mention is that not all of the locomotives, but most of them are stenciled with a name. This one's named Chicago after, obviously, Chicago Northwestern. But again, this is 2206. Nothing too unique about that except for where it hails from. But 2201, it's nicknamed Longhorn, and I just named it after the logo as the first locomotive in the roster. And that's about it. Now 2202, the second locomotive in the roster. This engine, it's got a unique paint scheme, and I think I might have done one other engine with this paint scheme, but it was an interesting idea and it worked, but I neglected to do it for any other locomotives because some of them have obviously the Bigfork and Flathead logo in the middle there. You can see it. So there wasn't really room. And again, with the name stenciling on the side, some of the locomotives didn't have room for it, so I didn't put it on. But again, this locomotive is the second locomotive on the roster. Again, this is when I was experimenting with the paint schemes. So either this is supposed to be ex-Conrail or ex-Santa Fe. I forget which is which. Because the ones that are ex-Conrail have a Conrail horn. This is ex-Conrail, yeah. The story with obviously the antenna, air conditioning, and beacon array is that was put on by the railroad, by the company Bigfork and Flathead, not by the original railroads that these engines came from. And it kind of explains it away so that, there's no holes in the story. But again, this is another reskin. It is unique. It has the hauling for you stencil on it. But other than that, it is not any different from the rest other than the horn and its backstory. Yeah, each of these locomotives, I made up a backstory for them. The Santa Fe locomotives here, these came from, I wrote it all down, but basically there was a auction for a pretty large stretch of line that was being abandoned by Burlington Northern as a result of the merger between Burlington Northern and Santa Fe. And these locomotives came with the line. It was just they're selling them off. They didn't need them anymore. and so they ended up on the Bigfork and Flathead because they were purchased. And the Conrail ones, this engine right here, obviously the ones that are numbered later came later, and there's 6 locomotives in total that came from Santa Fe. And the ones, I think there's 2 SD40s. No, I don't think there are. I think 1 SD40 came from Santa Fe. No. Yeah, no, there are 2. I'm being dumb. I forget my own roster. Anyways, this 2203 is one of my favorite locomotives because it's the only SD40 that has the safety stripe paint scheme. Obviously, a lot of the GEs have it, and there's the unique unicorn black locomotives over there that have them. But this is the only SD40 that has safety stripes on it. And one critique, I guess, I have of these done up models, man, I'd have to see them. I'm gonna check really quick, actually. I'm gonna be right back. Okay, so I found it out. These models right here, the SD40s, these were actually made by Tactical Doomer. And if you're in the Rolling Line Discord, you've probably seen them chat. But yeah, these are by Tactical Doomer. These are by AB Studios. I think this one's modified. It doesn't have a dynamic brake on it. But these nice detailed ones are by Tactical Doomer. They look very nice. I have to give them props. I like the realism. These ones with the different fans, these are by AB Studios. Right. So, yeah. Tactical Doomer, AB Studios. The difference is not that dramatic, so they'll run together, and plus they have the matching paint jobs, so it'll be hard to spot them. And, you know, these look great, though. I love them. Obviously, you notice these are fairly weathered. They're pretty intensely weathered, actually. There's a lot on the railroad. Like, obviously, these haven't been repainted since the railroad began. And these locomotives, they've had them for 20, 30 years. They've had each of these locomotives for 20, 30 years. They got the Dash 8s over there almost brand new. These were secondhand, but they almost got them brand new too. But 2203, the only notable thing about it is obviously the tiger stripes, or the safety stripes, but the back. A pet peeve I have with those models that Tactical Doomer made is they do not have rear number boards. So they have the outlines for them, but if you want rear number boards on them, like I can show you one of his actual models that he did, but you can't really see it. But this one doesn't even have the outline. They don't have rear number boards. I don't know if that was just something Santa Fe did. It could be. I'm not sure. But, yeah. So I had to make them myself on the actual livery. On the actual livery. These are hand did. The only thing that isn't hand done is the outline. That's already there. You can just color that on the texture. But that is 2203. And I don't know if I showed this earlier, but 2203 is in fact a Conrail engine. So there's that Conrail horn. This is another unique. The model is unique. The paint job isn't. Again, fairly weathered. This, I've noticed many of the locomotives do not have ditch lights, which is, there's workarounds in real life. The actual regulations aren't as strict as I thought they were. The story is that these locomotives, they instead have gyro lights. They obviously don't in game because, you know, I might fix it later on down the line if I have the patience, but many of the locomotives don't have ditch lights. So the story is that they use gyros and strobes and the beacons as well. So, and even if they didn't have ditch lights or gyro lights, you can still use them. And on the head end, they would just need to slow down to 20 miles an hour through crossings, which I think is goofy, but regulations will be regulated. So, This engine not particularly unique except for the fact that this one is from CP. It's got no dynamic brake, and I also gave it a unique horn to signify that it's from CP. I've noticed they tend to have higher pitched horns, so I like that horn a lot. It fits the locomotive very well. And so nice. It almost sounds fouled, but not quite. So, again, these first 5 here were my favorite to make because I was just trial and error, and it was more experimenting than anything. 2206 actually was one of the final locomotives. I finished 2206 after I had finished the Dash 8s, and while I finished it while I was working on the SD45s. So, moving on to the C40-8Ms. These were, again, hang on. I never showed anyone the stencils. This one's Ab Soroka. So, 2205 is Ab Soroka. I forgot to show these off. 2203 is Rocky Mountain. And this one is Gunslinger. So, they're named after things that are typically associated with, like, the West. Obviously, Ab Soroka, I've completely forgotten what I named it after. I think it's a river, but I can't say for sure. This is, I'm not sure what order I put. Oh, look at that. That's convenient. Except it's almost in complete order except for this engine. I'll start in order because you can see they progressively changed a little bit. Not much. But, again, these were also fun to make because looking at the prototype photos, just like even 10 years ago, these were very heavily weathered. Like they've seen the elements. They've been on the road 30 years almost, and they've seen a lot of like wear and tear. So I tried to replicate that with the weathering. Once again, these were acquired almost new through CN. They were mostly BC Rail, but these were almost brand new when they got them. So this is 5530, and it was the first of, like, it was just an experiment really, because I like these engines and they have very good sounding and prime movers, horns, and whatnot. This one's covered wagon, because apparently, according to my dad, that's what they used to name them. Because, I mean, if you look at it, it is kind of a giant brick. It's a covered wagon, really. But these have some interesting light arrangements, and I believe they also have, the lights aren't that special, but the sound files on these, you just have to give these things a listen. These are some of like the most beastly locomotives on the roster. They're very nice sounding engines, and I enjoy running them a lot. But they're also one of the bigger engines, so they're mainline runners. They're higher horsepower. Obviously, they're much higher horsepower than these engines. I think they're a little less than 4,000, but I'm not quite sure. They might just be 4,000. I have to think about it. They're C40-8Ms, so I think 40 means, 40 means 4,000. So, and also, I don't have to look it up, because this is kind of cool. I really like it, but he included a badge on the 3D model, so you can't paint over it, you can't hide it, and it's kind of a neat little touch, and it doesn't disrupt like the look of the engine at all. If I go in camera mode, actually I have to deselect it, but if you go in the camera mode, it doesn't hide the way the engine looks at all. But yeah, so it's very nice. Yeah, this is 3501. Again, none of these they're not really unique. They're just the way I did it is I had a clean version, an unnumbered version of each paint job for each engine, and I weathered and numbered it. Each engine, I should mention this, each engine is uniquely weathered. Like, this isn't a template I used. Each engine is hand weathered just by itself. So, I don't think I copied any liveries other than like the base, right? Obviously, this up top is different from like this engine right here. So they're all uniquely weathered. That's 3501. I think 3502 is a more unique engine. Actually, hang on. Yeah, this one's nicknamed Bison because it kind of looks like one if you think about it. Very blocky engine. But 3502 here. This is a unique model because I'm not sure what that is. It's a battery pack or like I have an electrical cabinet. I don't know what this block here is, but it is absent on this engine. You can see it doesn't have it. And I had to remove that logo, the Montana Basin Route logo, because it was getting in the way. But this locomotive actually has the quad ditch lights you see on typical BC rail power. And I really like those lights. I really like that feature. It's very nice. But again, these are mainline runners, so they have the ditch lights. It's nice and convenient, and it's realistic. I have a stick up my ass about realism, so I like when engines kind of adhere to like real life standards and whatnot. This engine is called Stagecoach. Now put it in the wrong place. I'm not sure why it does that, but that's like a bug that's been around for like a month. Things, you place them down, they just combust. 5533, again, it's one of those, it's just another locomotive. There's not anything unique about it. It's back to the old 3D model. Still a nice model, but I like the quad ditch lights on the other ones. So, oops. Yeah. Basically, same deal. This one's gold miner. So the story with like the white stains on all the locomotives is there's two different locations on the railroad: a gravel pit and a limestone mine. And you can probably understand that like chutes in a limestone mine and chutes in a gravel pit, you're pulling your locomotive under there and you're pretty close to the first hopper. And the dust travels, so obviously gets sent through vents, filters, and whatnot. And so all these white stains on the locomotives, that is actually left over from it's limestone dust and gravel dust, basically. And each locomotive has been sent on a train up there multiple times as the years have gone by. But moving on, I'm going to take a pause real quick. Moving on to the C40-8s. This is the only painted wide cab on the system. The rest, there's two others that are unpainted. They're back there with the patched engines. But here it is. I think the first unnamed locomotive we're going over. I neglected to name it for whatever reason. I'm not sure. But this is a unique paint job compared to the C40s because I had to change the front safety stripes because it wasn't, like, obviously their cab's different, but they had to make room for this cabinet thing here with all the vents and the doors and whatnot. And these locomotives, they're nice and unique in the sense that they have this it's a detailed flag. It's a PNG I found on the internet, and it was very nice, so I included it. Reminds me a lot of the Union Pacific flag they put on the side of their locomotives. But yeah, not much to say about this engine. It does have, it's a very nice engine. I like the horn on it. It's a BNSF K5LA. Here, give you a little listen. Yeah. But it's a very nice sounding locomotive. That horn is it's same for those two unpainted engines back there. They have the same horn. But these locomotives, on the other hand, I should say before I move on, these are all Santa Fe. You can see them back there. These are all, I think I mentioned it before, but I'll mention it again. These are all either Canadian National or BC Rail. Yeah. So this is the not the first one in the roster, but this is the second C40. This is 3431, and I had a lot of trouble with the standard cab UV, which stinks because I prefer standard cabs. I had a lot of trouble with the UV map on it. You can see some engines, obviously you can't get them completely precise like over here, and it's not noticeable when you're running. Pardon me. But this UV gave me so much trouble, and I would show you the actual paint map, but I don't feel like opening it, to be honest. I mean, even here there's like I'm not sure what's going on here, but it's a nice locomotive. That one, the Dash 8s are by AB Studios. I forget who modified these. Again, I'd probably have to check, and I'll actually pause to check real quick. I don't know how to pronounce that name, but you can see there, this is the person who made them. Originally, they had a more basic model, and then he updated it, which I'm thankful for, and it's a very nice, it's obviously based off of AB Studios model, but it's a decent cab, but it does have UV issues that I can't like easily gloss over. But here, I can show you one that's very visible on this. Because I already had done this whole side stripe, and the side stripe isn't even aligned on the paint model. For some reason, somehow, these were all straight, right? And I tried to, fix it a little on the paint map, but this was at lower for some reason than the stripe on the side of the nose. So I had to rotate this, and it's very subtle. You won't notice it while running, but now that I've pointed it out, everyone probably notices, and it's kind of upsetting, but like I can ignore it. But that's about it. I mean, other than that, these are decent locomotives. I like them, and that's what counts. And as for which road they came from, these are all ex-CN&W engines. I did take creative license with the horn. The horn is it's not a CN&W horn. I had trouble finding any that sounded like the ones they put on their Dash 8s. So this is just I'm not sure where it's from, but you can take a listen. Now, obviously, that's a 5 chime, and this is a 3 chime, but you can't have everything, so. Moving on to this one. Is this an unnamed engine? I forgot to. This engine's named Comanche, because I was looking at, this railroad, the Texas, I think it's the Fort Worth and Western Railway, but that's where I got the idea to name all these locomotives from. Is this one's named Comanche, and one of theirs is also named Comanche. I just kind of straight up copied it, but that's besides the point. 3430, again, it's another, this is another just reskin, but I will say this is a unique locomotive, and I don't know if you've noticed it already, but on the railroad there is a branch line, and it was part of the original 20 miles of the railroad, and it's a 9-mile branch toward a town along the Flathead Lake called Creston, and this engine is named after it, and even here it says Creston Branch. So it's a unique locomotive, and I like it enough. But I think it's the only engine that has a different name, and some of them obviously have different arrangements and whatnot, but this is a unique locomotive. This is not a different railroad, it's still the Bigfork and Creston, or Bigfork and Flathead. It's just named for when the railroad had a different name, because back in the day before dieselization, the railroad ran between those two towns only, and that was named after that. So this is another engine, just showing it off. I really do enjoy these paint schemes, but if you haven't noticed, there is a little bit of trouble, and I just left it because it's hardly noticeable. But these vents here are a different color than these vents here, and I could not figure out for the life of me why, but they just are. So it's the same for I believe the standard cab too, or the wide cab too. It's just doesn't make any sense really, but what can you do? Again, this one is named Moonshiner. That's about it for that one. And then the last one, I don't think anything special really with it, but I'll take a look at it anyways. Yeah, this is the last C40-8 on the roster, and this one is named Black Hill. After, I think, yeah, there's this one railroad that I took a ride on. I named it after that. It was the Black Hill Central. It has that, I think it's a 244 something. Oops. The 244 something. It's a little articulated steam engine, and it was really neat, so I named it after that. Moving on to the SD45s. These are the SD45-2s. So take a look at this one. These do have a unique paint scheme. I just kind of, changed up how the logo is situated. And these are also, again, a lot like the SD40 paint job, where they have the big number in the back. These are another model by Tactical Doomer. He did these, you can tell by the nice fans up top. And not much to say about these. I think these are the first locomotives. I think the last two in the roster are unnamed. This one is named Shepherd. I named it after, there's this, again, each locomotive has a more in-depth story than what I'm putting on, but this is the only nose light too. This one was named after a play I went to when I was in Branson, Missouri, called Shepherd of the Hills. It's very popular, and I'm sure you've probably heard of it, but that's what it's named after. And you can see this one, the second, if you count the Big Dash 8, this one is the first unnamed locomotive that I did, because I gotta tell you, I gotta be honest, it's literally because I forgot to put the name. It's just because I forgot. Again, not much to go around here. Obviously, I kept having trouble with the UV. It's better on this side, but can't have everything. Yeah, not much to say here. Again, a very nice locomotive, and right here you can see that's a nice touch I kept from the Santa Fe model. smushed my fuel cutoff sticker. I'm not sure what happened there, but again, nothing really detailed back here, but it does have these nice watch your step stickers. That's a really nice touch I really like. But again, this is a named version. This is 5601. But yep, this one's named Bull Run after Battle of the Bull Run. I just thought that was like a neat history thing. But these they're back to the little flag logo instead of the big fancy flag, and that'll come back on some other engines later, I think. But yep, these are pretty standard. One thing I kind of whiffed is I didn't really want a like streamlined roster. Some railroads obviously they have all like one locomotive. I think the Arizona and Eastern, that G&W out west, is converting all to like B40s, C40s, and -9s. It's a little boring, so I wanted to make a nice unique roster, and I think I did that to the best of my ability. This is another unnamed SD45, and again, it's literally just because I forgot to name them, and it would be pointless to go back and stencil it on there because it would look out of place with all the, weathering on there already. But another feature of these locomotives that I neglected to point out was they all carry these types of couplers, and they all come from Tactical Doomer's Santa Fe lineup. And they're realistic and their texture nice. But I can show you what the normal coupler looks like, and it's kind of awful. And it's kind of nasty, kind of ugly. No, I don't really like it. So when I jumped at the chance of being able to put, realistic couplers on there, these SD45s, they all come from Santa Fe. They all hail Santa Fe horns. That's right, same horn as 2201. Yep, nothing really unique here. These, moving on to the SD38s, these are probably the most unique locomotives on the roster, because they're the first that aren't GE. They don't have that, like, whistly EMD sound, because if you know a thing or two about SD38s, you know that they're naturally aspirated. So, coming back here, this is 2092. Again, this is an SD38 AC, and I'll demonstrate that by turning it on and get a good listen. So yeah, also these are from the DMIR, so they have DMIR specs. This one's actually unique. It's got a cap that's inlet inside the nose. It's got that's a model. That's a 5-chime model. It's also got a 5-chime horn I'll let you listen to. I don't know if they're the same, but it's a very unique horn model, obviously modeled off of the DMIR. So yeah, that's a P5 that comes from models. They've been using that horn basically since they added looping horns to this game. But back here, it's got a unique brake wheel setup that's apparently not as unique as I thought it was. SD38s, many SD38s apparently came with that, but I just didn't see it, and I guess it wasn't typically modeled in this game. But these have basically a morphed texture of the SD40. Obviously the catch plows are unique. They don't have them on every side, but one thing I added was down here they have these safety stripes, which gave the locomotive a nice unique, it's like its own touch, basically, so that it wasn't just a complete reskin of an SD40. But this one's named Carnegie after Carnegie Steel. So again, these are again, I had a lot of fun making these because they're sound files. I enjoyed messing around with them. But this is, ooh, I'm inside of a locomotive. Whoopsies. I gotta shut that thing down. This is 2091, kind of going down the roster here. This one's named Rockefeller, again after steel. The only thing really different about this engine is the spec. It has kind of a southern style rear bell. Again, the same brake wheel. But over here, it's got a normal sand cap. So, and also I didn't bother putting in actual number boards. They're just X's. So a little personality to that locomotive. Oop, I'm little. This is 2090. It's actually the first. This is the first AC. So another SD38. Again, just SD40 paint job on a SD38. It's got the same bells and whistles, same horn. Alright, well, moving on. These are the first really unique paint schemes that I did for the railroad. This is an SD38-2. It's still naturally aspirated. Still has those twin exhausts up there. The only catch is, this is from Santa Fe. Obviously, it's not from the DMIR, but this one, again, return of that detailed flag that I kind of liked. The weathering on these locomotives is different. It's lighter because I have like a very uniform way I weather the rest of these, but it didn't really look good on this. It made it look way too faded for its own good. But these are unique enough. You see even the logo is different on it. And also, I spent a lot of time kind of reworking the safety stripes because just yellow or just orange and white looked terrible. And so I kind of did up I lined it up basically. And it looks very nice if I do say so myself. But these are from Santa Fe. These also have ditch lights, so I can run them on head end, but they have that unique Santa Fe horn to them. And this is, obviously it looks more like an SD40 because it's longer. It's an SD38-2, but this is another locomotive from Santa Fe. Ditch lights again. This one's weathered a little differently because I was having trouble with it. Again, this one actually has particles, which is always nice. I was gonna add particles to all of them, but it became tedious and I became lazy. So again, it's a nice unique locomotive. This one's weathered a little differently because obviously consistency with this one was a little harder. But yep, that's 2093. This one's named, again, this is what I was talking about far earlier, but because of space constraints, there's not many places that I can really put a big name on. So I had to run around here and just put it on this side. This one's called Stillwater. This locomotive over here does not have a name. This one's an unnamed. And I think this one is too, yeah. But they're a little quieter than I would have liked, to be honest, but can't have everything. These are my regular SD45s, and these were the first black paint engines that I did. Obviously they look very similar. This one's a little dirtier, but very nice model. I like this. Is again another model by Tactical Doomer. Very nice model. The rest, the ones that aren't, they're probably by AB Studios. The SD38s were modified by somebody. Just to give credit, I'm gonna check real quick where they came from. Okay, so These locomotives were made by Ballistic Studios, except for these two black engines right here. I couldn't find who made them. I literally looked on the workshop, scrolled for like a good 5 minutes, couldn't find them. But these are they were made after two vanilla SD40 models. So the only unique thing is the twin exhausts. But oh wow, I left these lights on. There we go. Alright. But back to this. This is by Tactical Doomer once again. These, again, ditch lightless. Those are pretty unique engines. I like them. This one is named J.W. Madison, which I believe is a relative of mine. My dad's Fictional railroad, the orange engine's over there. Years ago, he painted a model stenciled with that, and so I wanted to keep it going, so I added it to my roster. And here's 5220. This locomotive was the first SD45. The paint job's not that different, other than it's stenciled with Independence. Again, one thing I'll say about this railroad is it's very, very patriotic. So I did forget the "In God We Trust" stencil on these, which, I mean, it's not the biggest deal, but it's a little whoopsie on my part. And back here, I'm sure everybody was... Oops. Shut these down. Back here, I'm sure everybody was super excited for these. Everybody seems to love patched locomotives. But these are the derelicts of the roster. Now, first, we have 3429. This is the first CN&W engine. This is the only one that remains unpainted, obviously. And it's just, I took a texture of CN&W engine. Someone made some, I think it came with, the one guy's name I can't pronounce. It came with his pack. And so I just took it, weathered it, and I blurred out the logos. I changed the numbers on it. It was a pretty standard job. Up top, yeah, nothing's really different. It is a very soft looking engine, but it's just on the roster to have a bit of history, and obviously everybody likes a patched locomotive on their fictional railroad. And I have many. I think I have like 6 back here. More than that. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 patched locomotives. Now these are, again, a bit of history. These are from BC Rail. Heavily weathered. I actually looked at prototype pictures when I weathered these. This is 5534. I looked at pictures when I weathered these, and I realized, like, the ones that were just, like, recently retired in the last 3 years, I think the last one was put away in 2020, so 3 years ago now. They looked crusty. They looked terrible. This one's obviously better off than that one over there. That one's almost completely black, but looking up top, the prototype pictures, this is basically what they looked like. Again, this one was it took a little longer. Again, this is by EMD Doggo, but these are patched weathered. This is 5535. This one's extensively weathered. Like, it's far gone. Everything's graying, and this one's really bad off, basically. But there's still kick, so. And I think this locomotive right here, 2200, is actually, I don't know why I didn't show it off first. It would have made more sense. But this is the first locomotive I did for this fictional railroad, and it's a patched Geck Altham locomotive. It still retains the Canadian demarcations. And obviously, the texture's a little bit lower resolution compared to everything else, but it's whatever. This actually has a unique horn to it. Obviously, it's a unique model. It's got the Canadian specs all around. It's got a K5 LA I picked up from a GP15 pack, I think. Very nice engine. I enjoy having it. It looks brilliant. It's got the Canadian, I'm not sure what these are. I think they're just vent covers, but it's just a regular SD40. It's not a -2 as well. But sure, everybody was itching to get a look at this one. But this is 2204. This is a favorite of mine because it's Santa Fe. Obviously, it's very unique. Still retains the paint. Still has interesting little details on it that were left from excuse me, the original model. It was fun to weather. I enjoyed making this engine. But yeah, that's 2204. Give it a little, oh, whoops. Give it a little toot. Here, these ones I enjoyed making, but I think these are the only repeating texture engines I did, I believe. Obviously, they're numbered differently, but you look at them, the repeated texture, because, actually, no. I think they are uniquely weathered. I'm not sure why I got that idea, but I thought they were repeating textured because they look very similar, I guess. But this is 3441, named after the painted C40 right there. But this is obviously, technically it's XB&SF, but it still retains Santa Fe paint, and it's a very nice looking locomotive. I like it. These are twins. They just run on the layout. They usually do not deviate from each other. They're not separated usually. They always run end to end. Because it's always nice to see like a complete Santa Fe power setup. So again, this is another. And I looked at prototype photos when I was weathering these. I made sure that these were done right, basically. So that's that. And moving on to the 5 foreign power locomotives over here. These two engines hold a little bit of sentimental value because this is based off of my dad's actual fictional railroad. The Buffalo and West Shore is what it's called, and that's real. I've got pictures, there's models. It's not fleshed out, there's no layout, but the idea is there. And these are 2 SD50s, and they're from Conrail, so they have that Conrail horn from earlier. They have that, and that's about all there is to be said. They have a nice little trick, but the stripe is the same on each side. So obviously it's different because these need to be level, but it's a nice locomotive. I like these. These were nice, easy to make. Obviously, because they're foreign power, they're not as subject to the elements as these are. They didn't go through any limestone mine for 30 years. These are used, obviously, between Buffalo and Chicago. And that's where the railroad goes. So these are actually real life prototype locomotives. I looked at them. I tried to weather them as closely as I could to the originals. It's 1458 here, 1475, and 1457. And each of them has their quirks. Obviously, SD60s. I wasn't a huge fan of the Burlington Northern Triclopses, so I, sought out the Whiteface engines, and I found these 3. And if I can, I'll try and put up prototype photos of them. And these 3 are posted to the workshop, so they're out there. You can get them. They didn't take long think I used, again, these are AB Studios models here. So I used, what was it? I forget who made the original paint job, but I just patched and weathered them. I tried to get them I wasn't like too much of a stickler about realism, but I did try and get them close as I can to prototype. So that's the whole roster. And what I want to do now is actually just give like an overview.
What, guys? Why don't you go build a bridge and jump off it?